time is now 5:33 on Wednesday, August 20th, 2025, and this public meeting of the D.C. State Board of Education will come to order. The roll will now be called to determine the presence of a quorum. Deputy Director, please call the roll.
Representative Best.
Present.
Representative Chang. Representative Colson.
Present.
Representative Goulet. Representative Henderson.
Present.
Representative Johnson Law.
Good evening and present.
Representative Thompson. Vice President Williams.
Present.
President Patterson.
Present.
Mr. President, you have a quorum.
A quorum has been determined, and the State Board will now proceed with the business portion of the meeting. Members, we have a draft agenda before us. Are there corrections or additions to this agenda? Seeing there are no discussions, is there a motion to adopt this agenda?
I move to adopt the agenda.
It has been properly adopted by Vice President Williams. I don't know why I'm tripping right now. Williams, can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Representative Henderson from Ward 5. I will ask for the yeas and the nays on the motion to be adopted of the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. We now have the minutes from our July and August working sessions, as there was no meeting in July. Is there a motion to adopt these minutes?
So moved.
It has been moved by Johnson Law. Have a second?
Second.
It has been seconded by Ward 4 Representative Colson. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, the motion is to adopt the minutes from our working minutes from our July and August working sessions. I will now ask for the yeas and nays for the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. All right. Good evening. I am Dr. Patterson, the at-large representative and president of the State Board of Education. On behalf of the State Board, I want to welcome all our guests that have made it through to the Judiciary Square. I know that is not easy at this current time of what we're going through, so I appreciate those who are here currently and made it through. I want to welcome you guys, and including those who are watching live via the District Network, Knowledge Network, to our public meeting. These meetings take place on the third Wednesday of each month in the Old Council Chamber at 441 4th Street, Northwest. We hope you had a good summer, and we are looking forward to another school year. This evening, we have 13 public witnesses. We hope they all make it here as we get ready, and who have signed up to share testimony. We encourage the public to sign up every month at SBOE.dc.gov. The State Board is available as a resource for our local communities. Please don't hesitate to contact your ward representatives with questions or concerns related to public education, or email our agency staff at SBOE@dc.gov. I will now turn to our state superintendent as she walks in. I'm going to let her get settled, give her a few minutes, give her a little grace as she comes on up. Yes, ma'am. Dr. Mitchell to share OSSI's remarks. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I don't know if the president has wonderful timing or walked in right on time. I don't know which one.
Both.
Perfect. Thank you so much, President Patterson. Good evening to the board and to the listening public. It is good to be here with you in this back-to-school season. I would like to begin my comments this evening by echoing the mayor's remarks this week as we prepare as a city to welcome the biggest wave of students back to classrooms on Monday. Mayor Bowser said our students deserve and will get a joyous start to their school year. The mayor encouraged all Washingtonians to bring that joy to students and line up to clap for them as they head out to school on Monday. As I began my first official school year as state superintendent, I could not agree more with this idea. I plan to start my day next Monday at a school parade, and I encourage all of you to be out and about next week, bringing joy to students with your presence as they enter school. Making sure that students get a strong start depends on how well we, as a city, have prepared for their return. At OSSE, here is what we have done to make sure students and schools are off to a strong start this school year. First, I'll talk about the parent portal. OSSE is responsible for transporting more than 5,000 students who receive special education services and are eligible for transportation to and from school every day. This year, we launched the OSSE Parent Portal for Transportation. Families must confirm their contact information and choose a transportation option. Either they will not need transportation, are interested in applying for a parent stipend to self-transport, or they're interested in OSSE DOT, Department of Transportation, transporting students to and from school. This new process allows us to work with families directly to confirm accurate addresses, which allows us to build more efficient and stable routes for some of our most vulnerable students. Thank you for continuing to spread the word about the portal to your communities. Special education. We've also been working over the summer to make sure that schools continue their work to serve and support special education students. Last month, OSSE issued updated policy and guidance to help school districts strengthen their practices, especially for our youngest learners transitioning from early intervention to preschool. We released a new early childhood transition policy, guidance on screenings and aid services, and resources to improve family engagement. We're also publishing monthly newsletters for special education points of contact and providing training and monitoring to ensure individuals with disabilities, to ensure IDEA obligations are met. This work is about making sure that every student with a disability receives the support they need to thrive. In terms of student health, we know students learn best when their minds and their bodies are healthy and strong. That's why this year's immunization policy includes clear exclusion dates to ensure compliance in key grades. Beyond that, OSSE is partnering with DC Health and Fire and EMS to launch 2 new programs. One, to make sure schools have access to and can administer emergency medications for asthma, diabetes, and allergies, and another to help schools respond to sudden cardiac emergencies. These are life-saving measures that bring added peace of mind to families. We're also leaning into the foundations that set students up for success, like reading, math, and tutoring support. This year, families will see universal screeners that can identify reading challenges like dyslexia earlier and structured literacy approaches in the classrooms. In math, our work with the DC Math Task Force is shaping experience-based instruction aligned to standards that will prepare students for real-world problem solving. And with high-impact tutoring, we're expanding one of the most effective interventions available. The data show that when students participate in these programs during the school day, they gain the equivalent of months of additional learning while also improving attendance. Speaking of attendance, I ask our community, parents, educators, students, state board members, and every district residents to help all of our learners make it to school on the first day. To help our attendance efforts improve, OSSE hired our first ever state attendance coordinator, and we will invite all schools designated for school improvement to participate in a reducing chronic absenteeism community of practice. This exclusive opportunity will offer expert and peer learning on best practices for supporting student attendance. Each year, OSSI releases annual statewide assessment results. Students, teachers, and schools worked extremely hard this past school year, and their efforts have paid off. I look forward to announcing the 2025 DC CAPE results tomorrow and to further growth and success under Mayor Bowser and OSSI's leadership next school year. Today, you will hear from an expert panel on what graduates need today. OSSI plans to continue to guide DC to further growth and success by reimagining DC's graduation requirements. I'm excited for this evening's discussion where panelists will discuss graduation requirements. That has been a real work that I've enjoyed immensely, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. After extensive public outreach and engagement, OSSI published DC's first ever graduate profile. I anticipate that the discussion will touch on many of the 7 overarching capabilities students should attain in advance of graduation that the profile highlighted. We stand ready to continue working with the board as we reimagine graduation requirements together. Before I close my remarks, I would just like to highlight a few of our agency's recent accomplishments and actions for your awareness. Last month, OSSI published our second attendance report for the 2024-25 school year. In the 2025-26 school year, we'll be exploring new and more timely attendance reporting. We also published a second notice of proposed rulemaking in July to update the district's rules on administering statewide assessments. We look forward to engaging the board on this topic in the fall. We welcomed 28 new paraprofessionals this month to our second cohort of the DC Teacher Apprenticeship Program. And also this month, we released a notice of funding availability for the fiscal year 26 Whole Child and Educator Wellness Grant. As you see, we've been busy. I hope that all of you will also have a productive and enjoyable and productive summer. Thank you for your time and attention, and I look forward to this evening's panel discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. I truly appreciate seeing you out and about. We've been at a lot of activities together throughout the summer, both in-state and out-of-state, so I appreciate all the work that you're doing for the residents and the families of District of Columbia. I also want to thank your staff for all you guys are doing, so thank you so much.
We are delighted with the partnership, and we look forward to a great year.
Yes, we do. All right. We will now move on to our panel on the topic of high school diploma and certificate options for students with disabilities. As a reminder, the purpose of our expert panel is to inform State Board members on a specific topic related to public education. We welcome a wide range of perspectives on each topic so we can use the information to take united action as a board. I will now call on each panelist. When I call your name, please come to the table. Tanya Barachi, Director of Education and Workforce Initiatives at the Federal City Council. Christian Jones, Senior Director of Federal Services, DC Hospital Association. Dr. Sita Ramuti, I want to say that correctly. Dean, College of Arts and Sciences, Trinity, Washington University. Walina Robeson, Project Manager, Transition Rehabilitation Services Administration, Department of Disability Services. And Leah Sloan, KIPP DC NAF Academy of Finance alumni, CareerWise DC alumni. Panelists, each of you will have up to 5 minutes to share your testimony, and then we will move to one round of questions from the State Board members. We will begin with Ms. Barucci. Please begin when you are ready.
Okay, how about now? Yeah? Okay, great. You good? I'm not like in your space? You're golden. Okay, all right.
You can move it a little bit closer to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
Great. This is my improv set.
Oh, now we sound good.
Better? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Good evening, State Board members and staff. My name is Tanya Bracci, and I'm the Director of Education and Workforce Initiatives at the Federal City Council, or FC2. FC2 is a nonprofit, nonpartisan, membership-based organization dedicated to advancing civic life in the nation's capital. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on OSSE's efforts to redesign graduation requirements and preparing DC students for their futures. At the Federal City Council, we co-convened 2 industry-led sector partnerships with CityWorks DC, in construction, called DC Builds DC, and hospitality, called the Hire Local DC Hospitality Sector Partnership. Employers in both of these partnerships are invested in hiring DC residents for good careers in their industries as not only the right thing to do, but also a good thing to do for their business imperative. We have heard resoundingly from the employers in both sector partnerships that our DC youth are underprepared for post-secondary education and the workforce. From an early career outcome study and analysis of DC high school alumni done by Bain & Co., CityWorks DC, and the DC Policy Center, we know there are significant disparities in earnings and employment when compared to similarly aged youth who moved to DC later in their life, an estimated gap of approximately $37,000. The silver lining is high school students who pursue career asset building opportunities, like high-quality internships or apprenticeships, are more likely to earn significantly higher incomes and feel more financially stable and fulfilled in their jobs, as well as optimistic about their futures. I've included a visual in there from the study for you. The city has made great strides, and that should be applauded, in investing in career asset building opportunities. Unfortunately, a significant number of students do not have the freedom in their schedule to access them. According to the DC Policy Center study on career assets, out of all DC high school age youth participating in school year 22-23, only 58% of participants were reported in intensive career asset building opportunities that occurred more than twice a week. To that end, employers were heartened to hear that OSSE noted as a desired outcome of the graduation requirement redesign that increased flexibility was in student schedules was part of their desired goal. Unfortunately, we do not see enough evidence that this outcome will be achieved currently. While considering the graduation redesign efforts, it is equally important to consider how to allow more flexibility to our high school students to meet the requirement. In December 2024, we engaged Hire Local DC employers and industry leaders to get their feedback on the proposed graduation requirements for OSSE. Employers were eager to give their feedback and met with Dr. Mitchell's team to share their thoughts. They gave us 2 clear directives that would help DC students graduate career ready. The first, employers want to see students have more schedule flexibility to allow for meaningful college and career asset opportunities like internships, dual enrollment, advanced coursework, and pre-apprenticeship. Hire Local DC's top recommendation to OSSE around grad requirements was to pursue more course equivalency, and OSSE has made great progress in this area with their 2023 guidance that empowered LEAs to identify CT courses that met multiple graduation requirements, preliminarily identifying 8 courses. Subsequently, DCPS has since identified 18 additional CT courses, resulting in 2,700 students enrolling in courses, meeting multiple requirements. We recommend additional guidance for LEAs to identify even more course equivalency, including for non-CTE coursework. Implementation and scheduling are key. It is great to see internship or apprenticeship opportunities potentially count towards credit. However, without collaboration with industry leaders to create and scale opportunities that all students can access meaningfully, we will maintain the status quo. The second and last thing employers said was that they want to see workforce-aligned interdisciplinary courses that are both engaging and more effectively preparing students with the academic and employability skills needed to prepare them for careers. Creating a process to both regularly and meaningfully engage both industry and post-secondary subject matter experts in a curricular and standards review to ensure that the courses students are taking is truly reflective of the challenges and opportunities they will face in college and career would be a very exciting outcome of this graduation requirement redesign process. What DC students need will change constantly, requiring curriculum that can evolve in systems that continuously get feedback from post-secondary institutions and industry leaders. Industry leaders are ready to roll up their sleeves, and we should capitalize on their engagement. Additionally, instead of creating new requirements such as career readiness and financial literacy, consider instead how to ensure these skills can be embedded into current courses or through career asset opportunities. The flexibility is key, and students and LEAs need options for students to learn the skills, not just to check a box. Thank you for this opportunity to testify, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
try my best to get as quickly as done as possible here. Good evening, Mr. President and members of the State Board of Education. My name is Christian Jones, and I serve as the Senior Director of Workforce Development over at the District of Columbia Hospital Association. I oversee all of the workforce development programming, including our DC Healthcare Workforce Partnership and our DC Healthcare Employment and Apprenticeship Link, also known as DC HEAL. This is a program that connects district residents to paid accredited internship opportunities across the healthcare system. And I appreciate the time to come here and talk to you guys today. DCHA is a unifying force advancing hospitals, healthcare systems in the District of Columbia. We are committed to promoting policies and initiatives that strengthen our system of care, preserve access, and eliminate disparities, and promote better healthcare outcomes for patients in our community. Our driving vision is to achieve an efficient and effective healthcare delivery system that supports a healthy, equitable, and vibrant community. Graduates in the District of Columbia have a wide range of post-secondary options: college, training programs, the workforce, and increasingly apprenticeships. Apprenticeships are especially powerful because they combine classroom instruction and paid hands-on work experiences, allowing graduates to build skills, earn a wage, and access a career pathway that without the upfront cost of a four-year degree. In healthcare, training programs and businesses are looking for more than just technical ability. They consistently emphasize the need for foundational employability skills, such as communication, teamwork, problem-solving, professionalism. These skills allow graduates to thrive in a clinical setting, collaborate across teams, and grow into leadership roles over time. To ensure a DC diploma truly signals readiness, it must connect students to real-world learning. Academic knowledge is critical, but it must be paired with experiences that show students how learning applies in the workforce. Too many students still leave high school without exposure to work-based learning, mentorship, or direct connections to career pathways. Embedding more of these experiences in the high school years would strengthen the value of the diploma. There are three key actions that schools can take to prepare students before graduation. One would be to expand work-based learning, such as internships, job shadowing, and apprenticeships. To embed employability skills like communication, reliability, and teamwork into their coursework. To provide early exposure to career pathways so as students can actually see what's possible before they graduate. Supports like mentorship, counseling, and transportation assistance are equally important to ensure all students, not just those with means, can access these opportunities. Students face barriers such as lack of awareness, opportunities, limited access to paid experiences, and competing family responsibilities. In some wards, transportation and fewer nearby training providers add additional hurdles. Addressing these challenges requires an intentional partnership, targeted outreach, and supports that make career pathways accessible to every student, regardless of background. With this context, I want to share a little bit about how DCHA is helping to address the needs through apprenticeship. We formally sponsored and received approval from the DC Apprenticeship Council to serve several programs, including a certified medical assistant, patient care technician, and certified nursing assistant CNA team lead. Our related technical instruction providers include Trinity University and the University of the District of Columbia. Our initial cohort includes DCPS and public charter school graduates, as well as students from Academy of Hope. This allows both youth and adult learners to start their careers in healthcare side by side. We are proud to partner with a diverse group of healthcare providers and businesses: Cedar Hill, Children's National Hospital, Forest Hills of DC, Stoddard Baptist Nursing Home, and Whitman Walker Clinic, to ensure apprentices gain exposure to multiple healthcare settings. We also work with CityWorks DC for our youth recruitment and Aussie CTE to align our programs with high school careers and technical pathways. Although our apprenticeships are just beginning, we expect them to expand access by opening doors to both youth and adults, build confidence and skills by combining classroom and workplace learning, address staffing shortages by creating a sustainable talent pipeline in healthcare, promote upward mobility through structured progressive career paths, and that lead to higher wages and lifelong careers. In closing, graduates today need the opportunity to structure, and belief. Apprenticeships provide all three of these. They give students meaningful post-secondary options, help businesses develop the workforce they need, and ensure our communities benefit from a stronger, more equitable healthcare system. Thank you so much for allowing me to testify, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time. 6 seconds to go.
Oops. Do I start again? Okay, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today on a topic that's vital to the future of our city. My name is Sita Ramamurthy, and I'm the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at Trinity Washington University in the district. Graduates today face a rapidly changing world that demands broad skills and support, and they first need rigorous academic preparation aligned with post-secondary and real-world expectations to succeed. At Trinity, we often see students arrive underprepared for the demands of their chosen fields. For example, aspiring nurses lacking foundational skills in chemistry and math, leading to discouragement and disengagement. In response, we are partnering with OSSI and DCPS to strengthen college readiness, particularly in high-demand areas like nursing and allied health. Expanding access to advanced coursework is also essential. Through Trinity's dual enrollment partnerships, students engage in college-level academics early, building both the skills and confidence needed to persist and succeed in their post-secondary paths. Second, graduates need strong soft skills that include communication, teamwork, problem-solving, and resilience. At Trinity, we believe the strongest professionals combine practical skills with a deep grounding in the humanities. A liberal arts education, central to all our programs, equips students in every discipline, from nursing to business, with critical thinking, close reading, and a broad understanding of historical, social, and cultural contexts. To ensure graduates are career-ready and intellectually prepared, schools must embed soft skills and workplace competencies across the curriculum, complemented by structured career preparation like resume writing and interview practice. Third, graduates need comprehensive support systems. To strengthen the path from high school to post-secondary success, schools should expand academic support, use early warning systems for at-risk students, and offer consistent college and career planning. At the same time, post-graduation support plays a critical role in maintaining student momentum beyond high school. By partnering with DCPS Persists, Trinity has reinforced its commitment to student success through the on-campus Center for Student Success, which offers integrated support, advising, financial and aid guidance, wellness resources, and career planning, while staff provide personalized help to keep students on track academically and financially. Finally, graduates need equitable access to all the above, regardless of their ward, background, or circumstances. Schools must ensure equitable access to academic, social, and logistical support, such as reliable transportation, internet access, and family engagement. Equity must be embedded in all policies and programs. OSSI's recently launched Advanced Technical Center, ATC, is a unique model that strives to achieve this, and Trinity is honored to be the ATC instructional partner for its general nursing pathway. In summary, graduates need 4 key pillars for success: rigorous academic preparation, strong soft skills, comprehensive support systems, and equitable access to all the opportunities. Thank you for your dedication to DC students. I welcome any questions and look forward to partnering to create stronger pathways for all graduates.
Good evening, President Patterson and the esteemed DC State Board of Education members. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this panel. My name is Walina Robson, pronouns she, her, and I'm the Program Manager for Youth in Transition at DC's Department on Disability Services Rehabilitation Services Administration. The DDS RSA Youth in Transition Program collaborates with the State Education Agency and local education agencies to provide students with disabilities age 14 to 22 with pre-employment transition services. The primary purpose of these services, provided or coordinated by DDS RSA vocational rehabilitation counselors and transition specialists, is to help students identify career interests and develop soft skills in preparation for transitioning to employment and or post-secondary education. Students with disabilities may receive any or all of the following pre-employment transition services: job exploration counseling, which helps students learn more about the world of work to make career, educational, and life decisions; work-based learning experiences, which includes job shadowing, career mentorship, workplace tours, field trips, internships, paid and unpaid, student-led enterprises; counseling on opportunities for enrollment in transition or post-secondary educational programs at institutions of higher education, post-secondary degree programs, occupational training and certificate programs, workplace readiness training, which includes communication skills, financial literacy, job-seeking skills and work ethic, and instruction in self-advocacy, which includes self-awareness, self-determination, self-reflection, and peer mentoring. The involvement of DDS RSA and IEP transition planning with local education agencies can be instrumental in providing resources that support students with disabilities as they leave high school. As outlined in the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitation Services, OSERS, coordinating transition services and post-secondary access guidance on requirements under the IDEA and Rehabilitation Act. In Section B, early coordination in the IDEA transition process with vocational rehabilitation program can benefit students with disabilities transitioning from school to post-secondary pathways. When LEAs coordinate with DDS RSA, we can enhance several areas of the high school experience for students with disabilities to better prepare them for the future. For example, in fiscal year 24, DDS RSA and our partner providers worked with DCPS and public charter schools to provide in-school work experiences and after-school internship opportunities in an integrated environment to over 600 students with disabilities. These experiences offered students with disabilities opportunities to practice and improve workplace skills in competitive and integrated work settings before exiting secondary schools. Recommendations for supporting students with disabilities receiving a high school diploma: increase opportunities for enrollment in career and technical education programs. Students with disabilities who graduate from high school with job-specific skills and qualifications earned in high school CTE courses are often more successful in obtaining and retaining employment. The social-emotional benefit of increased self-confidence when students feel prepared for work helps them to interview more confidently and thrive in the workplace. The second recommendation is implementing inclusive practices in CTE programs. Ensuring CTE classrooms are staffed with a learning specialist or paraprofessional to support the implementation of IEP accommodations and different learning styles of students enrolled in the course, allowing students to choose their CTE program. Student choice considers their unique strengths, concerns, abilities, capabilities, and interests. Explicit soft skills instruction, a robust soft skills curriculum benefits all students with and without disabilities. Skills such as leadership skills are essential to developing self-awareness and building self-confidence. Students with learning disabilities and behavioral disorders thrive in post-school endeavors when they have access to soft skills instructions provided in the 11th and 12th grade. And then finally, recommendations for students receiving IEP certificates of completion. More job development more job readiness, secondary transition, and workforce development programs with local business partners. Students pursuing IEP certificate of completion are eligible to receive SPED services until the age of 22. Once a student on the graduation pathway completes their compulsory education requirements, usually at age 18, it is beneficial to enroll them in programming that prepares them for work and independent community living. Often these students continue to be enrolled in classes with their younger peers, ages 13 to 17, where they begin to experience social, emotional, and skill regression. Enrolling students age 18 to 22 in transition and workforce programs with their age-appropriate peers prevents social emotional regression and engages them in an environment where they thrive, learning new skills to support their independence. These programs work best in partnership with DDS, RSA, because the goal of vocational rehabilitation, pre-employment transition services, and IDEA transition services align. Current examples of those secondary transition programs for students pursuing IEP certificate of completion are DCPS Project Search Program and River Terrace Education Programs campus. These programs have long-standing relationships with RSA and a high employment rate for participants who complete these programs. The current challenge is that these programs only offer a limited number of seats. Thank you for the opportunity to present my case in front of the panel, and I look forward to your questions, and I apologize for going over.
Good evening, President Patterson and chair members of the board. My name is Leah Sloan, and I am a proud graduate of KIPP DC and a CareerWise DC alumni and CityWorks DC alumni. Back in 2021, I was a junior who knew I liked business and finance, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do after high school. My school made the connection that changed everything. They introduced me to the NAF Academy of Business, which led me to CareerWise DC and ultimately to my apprenticeship at Freddie Mac in their enterprise supply chain department. My apprenticeship through CareerWise DC at Freddie Mac was the turning point in my education. It prepared me for life after high school in ways my classes alone could not. I graduated with both a diploma and over 2,700 hours of real work experience, more than $58,000 in earnings, and a professional network that still supports me today. My high school coursework gave me a strong academic foundation, but my apprenticeship gave me something different: the ability to apply what I was learning in real time and launch my career. For example, I learned how to manage data, navigate supply chain processes, and communicate in a professional environment. How to send a clear follow-up email, how to ask good questions, and how to present ideas with confidence. Those skills weren't just talked about in class. I had to practice them daily. When I rotated in HR communications, I discovered a love for connecting people and sharing information, which led me to my current career path. That's something I never would have discovered without the space to try different roles in a real workplace. Academically, I felt well prepared for college courses, but without my apprenticeship, I would have been underprepared for the professional world. I wouldn't have had the same confidence, career clarity, or resume that made me competitive for future roles. However, my CareerWise DC apprenticeship was only possible because my school and I were able to commit the necessary hours in my schedule to this opportunity. During my senior year of high school, I worked with my counselor to ensure I could graduate on time with a class schedule that ended at 2 p.m. daily. 4 days a week, I left school and commuted to Freddie Mac, where I worked from 2 to 6 p.m. These opportunities should be more available for young people. Right now, access depends on whether a student has enough space in their schedule to meet graduation requirements and the apprenticeship hours. For many students, it's impossible to do both things because apprenticeship doesn't earn credits. It also depends on the school having a counselor who can navigate graduation requirements and school scheduling options. At Freddie Mac, it was essential that I could work 16 hours a week to make the work meaningful. If schools and employers could work together to create a more predictable, concentrated schedule, more students could participate. In my experience, employers want more apprentices who can adapt quickly, communicate clearly, and work as a part of the team and solve problems independently, those things that are very hard to learn in a classroom alone. And while financial literacy and a career prep in a classroom are important, these skills are the best learned when students like me have a real-world application in the workplace. My apprenticeship taught me how to budget my paychecks, how to negotiate work and life responsibilities, and how to make informed career decisions. That learning deserves to be recognized and prioritized by the DC's graduation requirements. Today, I'm finishing my bachelor's degree in marketing and business at the University of Maryland and working at College Track, where I support students in the community as they begin their professional journeys. I get to be for them what my mentors and supervisors were for me in a workplace. I'm here today because I believe every student in DC should have access to the kind of work-based learning that shaped my life and my career. When students are trusted to do real work, they not only learn skills, but they also discover who they are and what they want for their futures and those around them. I hope you will consider ensuring there's a support for work-based learning as you shape the experience of future high school graduates in DC like myself. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. I want to thank you all. Our deputy director will now call the roll for members' questions. Each member will have 3 minutes. A reminder to members that the 3 minutes include both the time to ask the question and the panelists to respond, okay? So there will only be 3 minutes. When you hear that little, we will cut people off, or the deputy director will cut people off. Again, thank you all, panelists. Well, members can ask questions now.
Okay, we'll start with Representative Best.
All right. This question is for Ms. Robeson. I'm a big fan of the work that you all have been doing. But as a policy board, my question to you is like, what are the things that we can do from like a policy stance or a leverage stance that can help you all do the work that you do better?
One of my recommendations is to create, so the students who are pursuing an IEP certificate, the first 4 years are compulsory. So the challenge I ran into at DCPS when I was there was, we had to make a decision. Do we issue them their graduation certificate or what do we do? So we didn't issue it until they finished school. But we let them participate in graduation exercises, but we couldn't give it to them until later. It'd be nice if they could but receive that, and then they start anew, create a policy where it's like a transition focus educational requirement for those youth that are 18 to 22. Because in previous years before I got to the transition team, the youth were repeating the same courses over and over again. They'd be 18, 19, 20, 21, taking the same courses, sitting in classrooms with 13, 14, 15-year-old peers. Prior to leaving DCPS, I created the post-secondary education and training program, which is called P-STEP, where over the pandemic, the idea came to me, I created a whole new course catalog for the 18 to 22-year-olds, the C5, the C8 kiddos, so that they wouldn't have to repeat the same courses, and it was much more transition focused. There's an internship track, there's a financial literacy track that mirrors the math track, and then there's a occupational literacy track that mirrors ELA, what they would need to know for vocational literacy.
Thank you. No further questions.
Representative Chang.
Thank you. My question is for Mr. Jones. I'm curious what your take is on what separates a good from a bad apprenticeship.
Oh, wow. A good from a bad apprenticeship. I think, to me, I think all apprenticeships are good. I think ultimately it's a matter of understanding what the business is looking for, and at the same time what the student is looking for, right? This is it's not a one size fits all type of situation, right? And so a lot of the times we focus a lot on the supply side as opposed to the demand side. And so for us, it's one of those things. With our apprenticeship programs, what we are focusing on is looking at our employer partners from the beginning, having those discussions with them directly, and understanding what it is they need and or want from their apprentices, and then tailoring those responses and those needs to the work that we are partnering with CityWorks DC to do, right? So they do a lot of the recruiting based on the requirements that the business has, so that way our students who are coming into those apprenticeships are already have the skills that they're looking for. And then we're also able to provide them with information for those who aren't ready to then begin that process.
And for the employers that you're working with,
Yeah.
what have you heard from them are the skills that are the hardest to find among the students?
I think I think for most of our employer partners, the focus has always been on making sure, and I'm sure everybody hears this, I can teach anybody anything so long as I can teach them to show up. And so I think for us, one of the things that we focused on is on our foundational employability skills, right? It's that communication. It's being able to have that empathy. It's being able to have that professionalism. It's being able to have that ability to have time management, right? So those things that aren't necessarily learned through books, but through experiences. And so one of the things that we are focusing our energies on is making sure that we provide some different student-led trainings and trainings through our CityWorks partners that provide those foundational employability skills beforehand.
And let's use time management as an example.
Yeah.
What are the ways that is taught and/or
Sure. So a couple of things that can be done as far as teaching time management. This is all about, one of the biggest conversations is about communication and preparation, right? So understanding that students need to figure out how to do timelines for themselves, right? Create to-do lists, figure out how to kind of move from one place to the next, right? And have the opportunity to create those checklists for them at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day so that they understand what is expected of them going forward, whether it's to the next day of work or at the beginning of the day.
Thank you.
Representative Coulson.
Thank you all for being here for your testimony. I learned something from everyone. I want to go back to Ms. Robinson. You spoke about implementing, workforce design courses in the school. Can you tell me more about that and how that was implemented?
So it's within the LEA. So I created a course catalog that I partnered with the scheduling team to ensure, to get the course codes and to ensure that those courses were downloaded so that all of the schedulers at the DCPS high schools could schedule the kids in it. But a lot of that, the bigger part of it was educating all the schools that these courses are now available, so don't reschedule the kids in classes they've already taken and passed. The part that we really wanted to happen was for it to be a workforce kind of development certificate or an endorsement on their IEP certificate, just something to acknowledge to an employer that these young people have that they've completed these courses they might have an intellectual disability or autism, but they've had a steady diet of 4 years of coursework to get them ready for the workforce so that they're not overwhelmed when they show up. But it really would have to be at an LEA central office level to really push those courses out, and then training the educators and finding appropriate curriculum for these learners.
So it sounds like this can be scaled and replicated for the entire school if you start with the LEA.
That is correct.
Wonderful. And then my question for Ms. Barachi, you said that only 58% of the students who were enrolled during a particular school year had career building exposure twice a week. Can you tell me more about that and specifically what industries or employers that you're referring to who was able to provide this feedback?
Sure. So this is based on a study that was done by the DC Policy Center, and they did a survey about different types of career asset opportunities. So this is all the things that have been talked about in this panel already: internships, apprenticeships, different types of high dosage exposure activities, camps, that sort of thing, all accumulated together, and they call those career asset building. I would have to look at the study to see what different types of exposure activities and what industries they were associated with to find out. And then I forgot the second part of your question. I'm so sorry.
I'm just wondering, is it a possibility that that percentage was low because the students were not interested in perhaps those opportunities?
Yeah, okay. So barriers to access that students cited and providers cited, and most of the providers were actually DC government, so it's either OSSI or the LEAs or another DC government agency. Are one, awareness. So obviously creating better awareness and understanding about what are the breadth of opportunities that are available to a young person in DC is critical. And then two was schedule availability was the second biggest, barrier for students.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Representative Goulet.
I want to thank you all for testifying. I apologize for being late. I was fortunate to be able to watch it on our live stream here, and thank you all for coming out. I got to It was a calming to hear this good testimony while sitting in traffic. So thank you all. A couple quick questions on it, though. The issue we faced here with our nurse shortage in our schools particularly has been a real challenge. As you know, particularly the representative from the Hospital Association, we have a nurse shortage in the region that we're trying to compete with everybody else in. But how do we create the type of programs, whether it be during the school year or during the summer, that really push our students into these fields that we know they need to be in? Like almost to try to incentivize them to stay in the city and serve our city.
Sure. Excellent. We are very, very excited about this particular aspect of things. I think for us, one of the biggest conversations that we've had is we've partnered with CTE. We've partnered with OSSI to go to the Advanced Technical Center, right? To have those discussions at an early stage. I think for us, our focus has always been on making sure that our students know what's happening before they have to get to the end of their line. So we're looking at freshman year, even 8th grade. How do we get them in and give them opportunities so that they know what's out there and available for them? The more that we get into those schools, the more that we provide insight and opportunity, the easier it is for a student to say, oh, there's an opportunity here that I can actually get into. There's something here that I enjoy and I like doing. So I think increased exposure is the most important thing, and doing that at an early age, freshman year, even 8th grade year.
That's great. And I'll put in a plug also to try to get the Whittle campus, which is something I've been campaigning for a while, the old Intelsat building, which is right next to our state university, because I think there would be a lot of opportunity to generate excitement and partnerships with UDC if we put that building into our inventory and used it in partnership with our state university here in the city. Last question, and I'll try to do this very quickly, is the summer program. Summer youth employment program can be hit or miss, depending on what track a student gets into. How do we use that to generate excitement like you're talking about for these fields where we want to try to get our youth into? Can we transform that program to continue the work you're talking about?
Well, so to me, I think our summer youth employment program is a wonderful opportunity for students to really truly understand what's going on. I think for us, one of the things that we really need to focus on and look and focus on with regards to our summer youth employment program is, so the short answer is yes, we can. The harder answer is how do we do that, right? And that takes time. It takes decision making. It takes the fact that we need to figure out what students are looking for more than likely, making sure that we are doing our due diligence with our employability skills and understanding what the students are actually in need of as well. So it's not just the academics part, it's also the personality testing and like the Myers-Briggs and or a strong personality assessment so that they understand where their strengths are and how they can be successful.
Well, thank you all for your testimony tonight. I apologize I didn't get to all of you, but I appreciate all the testimony.
Representative Henderson.
Thanks to all of you. Ms. Robeson, I want to start with you and ask if you can say just roughly like what percentage of students enroll in something in that 18 to 22 age stage. Is it most? Is it only a few?
So it's not an enrollment kind of thing.
Okay.
It's really, when I left DCPS, I was really trying to get us to give a location of services. Once they finish their compulsory education, let's just give them a location of services to River Terrace to be our transition campus, and then they can do the transition work there. So it's getting the district as a whole to really buy into it. So it's not really enrolling in it. It's just really, I guess, that awareness and really creating the structures to ensure that those youth just have access to that. Some schools actually do a really good job of using those courses, the C5, the C8 that I've developed. Ballou High School did a good job, Anacostia High School, and then running the program at their school. The challenge is they don't have the staffing to dedicate to running something like that.
So right now, you'd say there's more demand than there is capacity.
Yeah,
At the moment.
And even
Okay.
the charter school world, I don't know what's happening there.
Yeah, I don't have a good sense of like what that landscape is, so I would like to know more about that. But for the moment, I'm going to move on. Ms. Barachi, if you could say from the employer side, employer perspective, how easy is it for the employers that are in either DC Builds DC or the other partnership, for them to match with schools and say, hey, we would like to take on interns, or we have these opportunities? Like, are there barriers to that, or is it easy for them to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I would say that it is an initially great opportunity, and employers are eager to do that. However, there tends to be a disconnect between what is accomplishable and, what is being promised. So, for example, there's one industry employer who was working with the school, and at first they thought they would be able to take on about 20 interns, and then it turns out that based on eligibility and schedule flexibility, only about 3 students would actually be able to participate. So it discourages industry, and that's not to say that there isn't middle ground to work together on. There definitely is. I think that the industry is really eager to work with schools and create systems that work collaboratively. So, for example, I think OSSI's CRI and AIP internship programs are great examples of things that work and would be great to scale across all different types of student groups.
All right, thank you. I won't ask another question in my 7 seconds.
Representative Johnson Law.
Thank you all so much for your testimony. Mr. Christian, I want to start with you. And then again, shout out to all the Ward 8 partnerships you have. Like you were talking about Cedar Hill and you were talking about Academy of Hope. Ward 8 proud. But my quick question for you, how are you all partnering with students that have disabilities and everything that you are doing with the workforce? Like, are you with RSA? Like, what's happening there?
That is a fantastic question. So I used to work for DDS in RSA in the transition unit. So yes. Yes. A lot of the work that we're actually doing right now is, and so we're working with our folks over at DDS, providing our employer partners with an understanding of what it is to work with an individual with a disability. Right? When most of our employer partners think of a disability, when most people think of a disability, they don't necessarily think of, ADD. They usually end up with the lowest common denominator as possible, and they go, oh my God, I can't really work with that at this particular point in time. And one of the things that we focus on is on awareness and making sure that our folks understand that disabilities aren't something that is a barrier. It's just a different way of looking at things, right? And
Absolutely.
so by having the folks over at DDS come over to our employer partners and discuss what accommodations even look like, which could be as easy as turning off the lights or providing a different type of pen. Employer partners then look at it and go, oh, this is something that we can do. We don't have to recreate something completely different, and we don't have to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars to actually accommodate. And so we find that just the awareness alone gives them a sense of peace that allows them to really truly take on an individual with a disability without much of an issue.
Amazing. I'm going to follow up with you. I only have a minute left, but Ms. Robeson, I definitely want to follow up with you, and you're definitely going to get an email from me. But do you have a sense of how many students you're helping who are on a certificate track versus a diploma track? Because looking at your recommendations, there are a lot more options for students that have diplomas. And one of my things that I'm praying on is how do we get more of our kids on a diploma track rather than a certificate? And I'm sorry I gave you 40 seconds. We can follow up too.
No worries. So, there are some students who absolutely can, achieve and learn on that pathway, but then there are some students who just can't, but, they thrive in the workplace. And so most of our programs, like Project Search, we probably have about an 80% employment rate. Hilton hotels in the area employ a lot of our students with autism and ID. So it's we have a higher number of students with more significant disabilities getting employed than our students with learning disabilities, just because we have those partnerships through the program.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll follow up with you as well. Thank you so much.
Representative Thompson.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your testimony. I really appreciate you lifting up the success of Project Search and the work of Dr. Cepeda. I go to that graduation every year. And some of the years they've actually had the alumni be the keynote speakers to actually really show the graduates that there is a pathway for them. And I think that's really important. I do have a question. I think it was you, Dr. Ramamercy, that did a great job of saying like what graduates need, and you listed 4 pillars. You said rigorous academic preparation, strong soft skills, comprehensive support, equitable access to opportunities. Let's say that we're able to do all of that, right? Magically. We're going to wave the wand, it's done. I guess my question, and I guess this would be to you 3 probably, how would employers know? How do we signal to them that we've gotten the requirements right, and students, once they graduate and leave DCPS, are ready either to enter into Trinity successfully or into the workplace successfully?
You know, we've given it a lot of thought. And very recently, we explored the possibility of giving them badges. For example, our humanities group is transforming the way that students actually go through the track and get specific skills in the humanities in terms of communication, team building, problem solving, all of that. And so we are rearranging our courses to actually tailor that to the skills as opposed to just the content, which is what we've been focusing on for many years. And so giving the students a badge, a digital badge even, where they can sort of showcase their skills, put it on LinkedIn, would be a way to, you know, signal to employers, we feel.
Yeah, great. So what I would say is that ideally for a student, when they graduate, should not be the first time that they interact with an employer or post-secondary institution. And so we're hoping through these types of career asset building opportunities, they're constantly interacting with employers and building that social capital and that relationship, so that that way that employer's like, I need that young person as soon as they graduate, or they're coming to work for me, or I'm going to put them in my academic program. And so by creating those bridges and those connections, they'll see the skills that these students have.
Ditto. Bringing employers to the table. The more that we can bring employers to the schools, bring employers to the fold, and actually have them look at curriculum and help develop that curriculum, that is how you win them over.
Vice President Williams.
Yes, thank you all for your testimony today. It's good to see such a wide degree of perspectives represented today. And I wanted to pick up where Representative Thompson left off, because I think how we message that students are ready for the next step is really important. So, Ms. Barachi, you had said kind of just this social capital piece. Does that look like just particular internships that students have? And I mean, is there a quantifiable aspect, or is it just a list of different experiences?
Yeah.
What does it practically translate to?
What's exciting that is currently in the graduation requirement redesign is the need for post-secondary planning, which allows the student and the LEA to build what that student's going to need for their path. So depending on what they want to do, they might need an internship, they might need dual enrollment, they might need this high dosage training class at UDC or something like that. So one, they'll build that opportunity. Currently, there are not enough career asset opportunities. If tomorrow, blank, we had enough, there wouldn't be enough for every student in DC to get one. So that's, you know, kind of where we want to start. And then 2, even if they were all available tomorrow, not every student will be able to access them because of schedule flexibility, because of just kind of the way that students get, you know, are working right now with their schools. If they have credit recovery, there's, you know, barriers. So I think it's kind of a two-pronged process.
I appreciate that. I have 2 final questions, about a minute and a half. Ms. Robeson, I'm going to come to you. I've seen firsthand how awesome RSA is as a 12th grade teacher, seeing those bridges that are built. I'm curious what the general ratio is of like RSA coordinators to how many students are like on their caseload, because I've seen people kind of been overextended, and I'm curious if you could just briefly speak to like what that looks like and how we could make it easier to provide more support.
Well, there's an average per RSA counselor, about 130 students per caseload. However, the way we've remedied that, we've hired a team of transition specialists. So the transition specialists work alongside the VR counselor to do the pre-ETS workshop. So, but prior to them coming on board, the VR counselor had to do the VR counseling sessions plus
Yeah.
the pre-ETS workshops. But now the transition specialists are really taking that load.
Thank you. And then my last question, Ms. Sloan, I just want to know kind of like in 25 seconds, how your schedule was adjusted to be able to make the NAF program available to you.
Absolutely. So actually, NAF counted as one of my apprenticeship years for 1 year. My first year, actually, I did not participate in the NAF program because my finance apprenticeship counted as a credit. But originally, I was a technology student at Accenture, actually, and I had an education barrier, and I wasn't able to graduate or leave school on time and graduate on time if I participated. So I swapped out and switched to finance.
Thank you.
President Patterson.
All right, thanks. I want to thank everyone that that has come today and given us more insight. But I'm coming back to you, Ms. Sloan, and I think I nodded to you that I was going to come to you, so I appreciate the Vice President chiming you in so I could just continue on my question. But basically, in the same vein, you know, I heard you and I'm reading your testimony. I had some things underlined and the confidence that it gave you. One thing that's very important to me is I know we all talk about how we do these systems, but for me, it's very important as the actual student experience and how you received it and everything. One thing you stated toward the end of your testimony was, you know, that while the financial literacy and the career prep in the classroom are important, these skills are best learned when students like me have real-world application, is what you said. And my colleague kind of pointed to it, but could you tell me, in your opinion, as a student who experienced it and stuff, how could we better marry this so that all students could have this opportunity? What would be some of the things that you would change? You know, we just passed financial literacy. How would we marry those two things together?
Absolutely. So my first recommendation would be to, I don't know how many schools are partnered with NAF, the NAF Academy of Business, but that is what did it all for me, and I was able to go back to KIPP DC and participate as a program coordinator at NAF, and I see that there, that when students have the opportunity, which it provides them with job shadowing, you know, Navy Federal, multiple large franchises come in and speak to students and allow them to job shadow and come in and get to see a day in the life, but one big piece that I'm trying to bring back specifically is allowing students to see alumni like myself and my peers come back and see, we were in your shoes one day, this is what we done, we understand. And one piece to that I've tried to like fulfill my passion with is mentoring students, allowing more students to have mentors that have been in their shoes, that understand them, that will allow them and prepare them for specific opportunities. And I think that's one thing that will really change the students' perspectives, but absolutely if we could get more job shadowing opportunities so students can get a day in the life of what it may look like for them to learn early.
Thank you so much, and I see, since our superintendent is still here and her staff is here, as they nodded to what you were saying and everything like that, so I'm hoping they're taking that in as well. At this point, I want to thank, again, our panelists for your thoughtful testimony. The State Board will now recess for a short break. Members, please return at 6:46. It'll be 5 minutes. When we return, we will welcome our public witnesses. So thank you again for your testimony. Members, if you could make your way back to the dais, I'm about to call us back. Members, make your way back to the dais, please. We hear testimony from public witnesses at every public meeting, and your comments become part of our official record. If you would like to speak at a future public meeting, please sign up on our website at sboe.dc.gov or contact our staff by email at sboe@dc.gov or by phone at 202-741-0888. Sign-up closes 48 hours before the public meeting. We have 13 public witnesses who have signed up to share this evening. As a reminder, all public witnesses must share a copy of your testimony with our staff at sboe@dc.gov so we can add it to our public record. We will hear from those in attendance in a panel format. Each witness will have up to 3 minutes to provide comments. If you are with us in person, please note that you must use one of the microphones at the table, which are already on. After each panel concludes, we will pause for questions from State Board members. If members have questions for public witnesses, they will have up to 3 minutes. Again, those 3 minutes include your question or comment and the panelist's answer. I would hate for our Deputy Director to have to cut you off. Our Deputy Director now will call the public witnesses in a group and announce the question rounds. She will also assist with timing to ensure our witnesses and members stay within their allotted time. Please call the first round of public witnesses.
Becky Ballard, Nathan Ballard-Mees, Kathy Riley, Laura Fuchs, and Cara Chavone, okay, Dieter Lima Morales, and that will complete our first panel. We can start with Miss Becky when you're ready.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. User error on my account. Sorry about that. Well, good evening. My name is Rebecca Ballard, and I am here tonight with my son, Nathan Ballard-Mees, because he is really passionate about education, and he wanted to speak with you all this evening. He asked that I go first. We are proud Ward 2 residents, and I am a DCPS parent of 2 students, Nathan and his younger sister, Lily, who will be in kindergarten next year, both at Ross Elementary. I speak tonight with a deep appreciation for our city and for public education, even as I recognize the difficult headwinds that we face. National attacks on public schools, pushes towards privatization, and local struggles where only a fraction of DC students meet proficiency in math and ELA. I also come from a family of public school teachers, including a grandmother who helped integrate schools during the Greensboro, North Carolina race riots. Supporting public education is so important to me. But today, so many families, especially ones with college-educated parents, are leaving DCPS or DC altogether because advanced pathways are missing, especially in middle school. I believe in and want to work towards solutions that lift up all children and collective approaches that keep families rooted here. My son Nathan is profoundly gifted, testing in the top 0.1%, and also has ADHD. He's several grade levels ahead in math and reading, and his writing and social emotional skills are at grade level. Like many twice exceptional learners, he needs both enrichment and support. His experience is not unique. Without that balance, the risks are disengagement, behavioral challenges, and emotional struggles. Nathan often says that he feels unchallenged, which is why he asked to testify today. At our in-boundary middle school, algebra is not offered until 8th grade, for example, although Nathan will be ready years sooner. However, other middle schools will offer it in 7th grade. That kind of inequity, where access often depends on zip code or privilege, undermines both excellence and equity. This does not have to be inevitable. We can look to Fairfax County to show what's possible. For example, their advanced academic program ensures that advanced services reach underrepresented groups, and they also have programs that focus on twice exceptional learners, like my son Nathan. I included other examples in my written testimony and data as well. Here in DC, I've seen personally that things like iReady mismeasure students. Even students who are measuring at the 99th percentile are technically labeled on grade. However, when I look at the raw score, it'll be listed at grade levels above. And then they're not given additional challenges. For students like Nathan, grade level cannot be a ceiling, it must be a starting point. We live in the most educated region in the nation, and we spend more per student than any other district in America. Having advanced programs and programs for twice exceptional students is important for equity, mental health, and the cultivation of the innovators our city and country need. I love this city so much that I created a business around supporting it, a social enterprise, focusing on turning crisis into community care. However, I'm really concerned that even if other things improve in our city, if this doesn't change, then we're going to continue to lose families. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nathan Ballard Means. I have ADHD and 2E, meaning that I am twice exceptional, which means I'm extremely gifted and I have no diversity. I'm going to 3rd grade at Voss Elementary School. Voss Elementary is in my neighborhood and I walk to school every day. I need a lot of challenge and I need the school system to be harder. I need a lot of challenge because I have ADHD. Like I said before, because if you have ADHD, you really like challenges. If you don't have a challenge, it is way too easy and I lose focus. When I was in kindergarten, we were walking in the forest and my mom said, "What is the square root of 4?" I said 2. I figured out the math because I heard the word square and I heard the word root. And I thought maybe it's the length of the square. And I was correct. Then my mom asked me, "What is the square root of 16?" I said 4. I did not know square roots then. They teach me way too slow, and I need for them to teach me faster with higher levels of hardness every day. When they teach me too slow, it makes me bored. In conclusion, please can I have higher level in school? Thank you if the answer is yes.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Well, that's a tough act to follow. Good evening. I am Kathy Riley, and I convene SHAPE, the Word for Ed Alliance, and C for DC monthly. I appreciate this opportunity to testify, especially on the eve of another school year. It is a time where our limited democratically elected representation is precious and important. So with the authority and public facing that you have, I believe you can support all of us in the fight to maintain public education that works for everyone. You can support equity across the city and quality at every public school. We have enormous educational choice. The challenge is to maintain and build on expanded opportunity where we have the right to attend. Too often the right is one of exit. Help us build close to home. We do not need more vouchers. You have the opportunity to reach out and listen as to how the cell phone policy is being implemented. Are there ways we can learn from one another? The tension between being able to communicate with phones and the ability to concentrate away from devices is stronger right now. How is the implementation of the standards faring in an era of more censorship? Are there ways that the social studies teachers can include instruction on the rights of living in America and how those are exercised? How are teachers contending with AI and chatbot? I've heard a lot of debate from college professors. How are we faring in K-12? Can you bring us together on attendance? How can we support it? There's legitimate fear both with getting to school and how the schoolhouse can protect and keep our students safe. I'm looking very much forward to your work on the revision of the graduation requirements. I have participated in a previous task force initiated and run by the State Board in this area. After considerable outreach, work, time, and effort to achieve consensus in a diverse group on our recommendations, there was no guarantee that they would be part of what you voted on. For example, adjustments to how world language opportunities might be expanded, and mathematics too, were rejected by OSSI and thus not part of the changes you could vote up or down on. Rejection of the recommendations of the current committee could meet the same fate. Thus, I support you in gaining the right to vote on amendments to policies put before you by OSSI in the limited areas where you have jurisdiction. I have seen where the compromise you are forced to make in an up and down vote don't match the will of your constituents in your role as our democratically elected representatives. So I know you have a heavy lift before you this year, and I want you to know all of us out here are with you, and we need you, and you need us. So let's have a good year.
All right, good evening. I'm Laura Fuchs, president of the Washington Teachers Union. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't able to write something today because I have been running around like a crazy person the past couple weeks as DCPS has completely abdicated their role, in my opinion, in dealing with the federal crisis that is at our doorstep. We are grateful that DCPS has not rescinded any policies that existed. When we have asked as our right as a union to discuss policies, they said it was unnecessary because nothing has changed. That's a really hard message to swallow. And I understand they meant it as something kind of positive, like, yeah, things haven't gotten worse, and that is a good thing, I guess. But it doesn't address the fact that things have gotten worse. Things have changed, and we know they're just going to kind of continue to change. And so DCPS has to kind of get out of this status quo mindset. It's not the status quo. More and more troops coming to our doorstep is not the status quo. And we appreciate that they're sticking to what they've agreed to from the past. That is good. But unfortunately in DC public schools, while it is a very centralized decision-making force, when it comes down to our schools, it's every school for itself. And so it's the most decentralized rollout of any kind of policy that exists. And what we saw in February when we were, concerned about ICE and the changes to kind of how they were talking about enforcing it in our schools, that DCPS barely talked to their principals. And so then some principals stepped up and did a lot for their schools, and they worked with the educators, and they were so amazing. And some principals were downright afraid to the point where if an educator attempted to do a Know Your Rights training or put a sign up, they told them to take it down, right? And that kind of level of differentiation between schools is unacceptable when we're facing a major crisis. And so, even just coming from then the mayor puts forward kind of a statement saying that all our students have Metro fare cards. Are you kidding me? They never have their Metro fare cards. There's never enough to give to all the students who want them. If they lose them, there's no quick process, which then, of course, puts our students at risk now that we know there are armed troops hanging around Metro stations doing goodness knows what, who might want to help do fare enforcement, right, on a bunch of children just trying to get to school. So it's troubling because it just leads to this complete mismatch, and that's where the union could really come into play. We want to be partners. We can kind of demonstrate what is not happening on the ground to those kind of up in their office downtown, but they're not working with us, and so we really want to make sure that they do so. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the State Board. My name is Dieter Lima Morales. I'm a DCPS teacher in Ward 1, elected member of the Washington Teachers Union Executive Board, and an Empower Ed Fellow and an Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner in Columbia Heights. I'm here because I believe in the power of a democratic State Board, and I believe that power should be fully realized. Right now, too much in DC education happens to communities, not with them. A truly democratic State Board would flip that script. It would mean students, parents, and educators aren't just stakeholders, invited to speak for 2 minutes. They're co-creators of policy. It would mean decisions don't get buried in agencies or made behind closed doors. They happen in public, with our communities watching, participating, and shaping the outcome. That's what checks and balances should look like. The board should be able to step in when agencies drag their feet, demand action when students are being harmed, and hold every part of our system accountable. No exceptions, no loopholes. Because without accountability, democracy is just a word on paper. We see what happens when there's no one in that role. When immigrant students were living in fear of ICE, where was the citywide directive to keep them safe in every single school? When LGBTQ plus students needed protection from hate and erasure, where was the clear policy to defend their dignity? When teachers were told to whitewash history, where was the binding guidance that said we will teach the truth in DC? Those moments cried out for leadership, and an empowered state board could have answered. I'm not here to tinker around the edges, and if anyone knows me, that's not me. The long-term vision is bold. A DC where every student, black, brown, immigrant, queer, disabled, rich, or poor, walks into a school that is safe, well-funded, and unapologetically committed to their full humanity. And the short-term steps are clear. Close the policy gaps that leave kids vulnerable, require transparency on how our schools are doing, and center the voices of those most often ignored, our students, families, and frontline educators. You are the only body in DC education directly elected by the people. You can be the people's strongest shield and loudest voice, but only if you claim that role fully. If we want justice in our schools, we can't wait for permission. We need a state board ready to lead today. And with that, I will yield the rest of my time.
Thank you all for your testimony. We will now proceed with a round of member questions, starting with Representative Chang.
Very good. First, to my Ward 2 constituents, thank you for sharing your experiences with us tonight. And to my colleagues, I want to underscore that what we've heard this evening is not unique. This is one of the most common concerns I hear from Ward 2 families, and one that the Ward 2 Ed Council has consistently flagged as a top issue. And so, Ms. Ballard, you noted that access to advanced coursework is limited. Would you share more on the kinds of classes or opportunities that you'd like to see?
So I'm happy to answer that question. Okay, if I give Nathan
Absolutely.
a chance to answer
Yes.
first. So Nathan, the question is, what are some of the advanced types of courses and classes that you would like to see? What do you feel is limited, and what would you like to see? I'm happy to also share my thoughts afterwards.
I'd like to see a lot of HUD things in subjects.
What makes it hard?
Like advanced.
What makes it advanced?
Like maybe like a grade before, or half a grade before, or like you're supposed to, like before you regularly learn it.
Can you give an example from math?
Alright, so for example, if you were in kindergarten learning addition and subtraction, people that were really good could be doing multiplication.
So first of all, I am not an education policy expert, and I do not have a graduate degree in education like a lot of people in the city. So I want to say that there's a lot going on in our city, as we've spoken about, and I am not someone who has studied this topic extensively. I'll just speak to Nathan. For example, Nathan is a couple grades ahead academically in math, and we do math at home. So at school, Nathan learns what I would call executive function around math, things like how to show your work and how to write things out, and how to listen if you already know the answer, and how to ask critical questions of other students. But the mathematical content is actually at home because of the pace at which Nathan learns, which I've learned a lot about as a parent since he was diagnosed, and we've been really open about that diagnosis a couple months ago with ADHD, learning about how Nathan's brain learns really rapidly. So just speaking of math, because I think that is a little bit more concrete to realize, is the idea to do accelerated content and or enrichment. So the idea that you take the same type of content, but you apply it in a more creative and deeper way, like more complex problems using the same math. So bringing in word problems, or bringing in social studies, or doing independent projects, or doing independent studies. Nathan's part of the Davidson's Young Scholars Program, and they actually emailed us a list of 20 different avenues of enrichment that could be done in public education that I'd be happy to share with you all, and they've done a lot of research on that. So that's just the example with math. I think I've heard from teachers that it's in some ways a little easier to differentiate with reading groups as well. I also want to say that I don't think that the solution is always to just advance a kid to another grade, because oftentimes you see children that have different profiles where maybe with their social academics or with their athletics, they may be at grade level or.
Thank you.
Representative Colson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for your testimony. My question is to my three advocates on the end. I can't say that I disagree with anything that has been said. I know that we are coming up on the first days of school, and my question for you all is, what realistically do you think that we can do collectively to ease some of the concerns? And I think I would flip that and first ask you all, what are some of the specific concerns that teachers or parents have that you're hearing? I'm sure I can assume what some of them are. And then if you all had recommendations to how we could collaboratively work to solve some of that within the last few days that we have.
Well, I think for me, like, some of it's just a message. Like, I think DCPS, by kind of staying so quiet, like, some of the stuff they're doing isn't bad, but it's not really being messaged because they're kind of trying to do it on the down low, I suppose, to avoid ire. But, like, finding a way to message, like, all are welcome here, and, like, we are here, you know, like, even just saying, we don't give up information without a warrant, like, because that's true. They're not going to. They've said it. They have repeated it in, like, a small PowerPoint. But I think making that really clear to families would help. I think that administrators, I mean, I think they need clearer guidance to administrators. It seems like that's part of what's leading different schools to going down different roads. And so then maybe sharing what they have shared with administrators with the rest of us so that we can help reinforce that might be helpful. But that's kind of what I got.
I know, Dieter, we all know that there's a lot of Signal chats and WhatsApp. There's a huge amount going on to try to get safe passage and to have an organized way we can support the students in getting to school safely. Mm-hmm. And so I think for the principals and the people inside the school to feel like that doesn't have to be all underground. The parents don't have to hide it so the principals or administrators or teachers don't get in trouble. And the other thing I'd say is I'm very worried about the adolescents, and there should be a way that we can teach and work with them, because it's a very provocative environment that we're in, and they're adolescents. So I think there are things available, whether it can be integrated into what we teach. And I think those are the things that I think would make a big difference.
Thank you. I think that waiting on others to say something, we may be waiting forever, but we have leaders here at the table, and I know that collectively what you can do and what another group can do and what the third group can do together, I think we can attack some of the concerns that we have. So I encourage you all to keep on with the work that you're doing, and even as small as it may seem, it makes a difference. Thank you all.
Representative Goulet.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. Nathan, really courageous for you to come out here and testify on this today. I associate myself with the remarks of Representative Chang and agree with what you and your mom said. So thanks for coming out and speaking before the board today. Ms. Riley, we're going to, we didn't consider the legislation today that you referenced. I think the plan will be, at least from my perspective, is to discuss it further at the working session, because we've got the amendment on the amendments to discuss, and that'll give a time to, if other witnesses testify about it, to also bring that feedback in. And then hopefully we can bring the legislation up at the next public meeting after we've had an opportunity to discuss it in the working session, and then transmit the legislation to council. And I'm excited to do that. I would say Commissioner Morales. Are you still Commissioner? Officially? Okay, Commissioner Morales. I agree with what you've said, and I will tell you, an experience I had last spring has changed my position on the mayoral control of schools model almost in its entirety. And it really is on the oversight side of it. I mean, we had a situation with kindergartners who should be in kindergarten. They should be looking forward to going to kindergarten in this next year. But instead, some are being forced to go to first grade. Others are still in limbo. And others have left our system altogether. Some going to private school, others going to public school outside DC. And all of this was completely avoidable. I mean, there was non-existent communication from DCPS. There was a lack of any consistent standards between schools. There was retaliation against parents who spoke out for their children to our Child and Family Services Agency. They withheld data. And there was a lack of really any focused oversight at council on this that would give families the relief they needed in a timely manner. We had council focused on the budget, on the stadium, but not on this education issue. And for me, we really need that focus back because it's not getting done at the council side. I mean, we spoke out as a board for the need for an education committee, and we didn't go there this year, but I think we need to do something dramatic because this, to me, was really a turning point where if the chancellor doesn't want to do something, it didn't get done. And it didn't matter if these kids got hurt along the way. And it didn't matter if DCPS was wrong. They simply wanted it their way. So I'm excited to work with you on what that would look like, what transformation you're talking about, because that was eye-opening to me, that was how it worked. And I've seen it from the other side of things where it worked well, but it is not working now. And I'll just I apologize for not leaving any time for you, but I'd love to talk to you in the aftermath about this, about how we try to achieve what you're talking about through that transformation.
Representative Henderson.
Thank you all for your testimony. Ms. Riley, you brought up the example of the previous work on graduation requirements, but I wonder if there are other examples that you might raise from your many years advocating for our schools, where you think that if the state board had more authority, maybe the authority to amend policies proposed by OSSE, that things may have gone differently?
I think you struggled on the school report card and on some of the assessment issues. I actually think these are really difficult issues and that you all might not agree, and for you all to wrestle with it and debate it, and I'm glad that you're going to go back and talk about this policy on this more. I think it's a practice we don't have, but if you had a little more power, more of us would be here. To help to try to inform you more, and you would be out in the community more to get more input. And I think that those are the examples I can think of right away. But over the years, there's been moments when I watched the mayor call somebody on the board to say, "I want you to vote this way." I mean, I think you have that power over the graduation requirements, over attendance. It's not a small thing. So, and I think it will be a heavy lift to get it right, but I don't think, I feel for you when you just have to vote it up or down, and you can't wrestle with, is this right? So, yeah, I guess, I don't know if that's enough examples for you, but.
Well, thank you. Ms. Fuchs, same question to you if there's anything that comes to mind.
Where you all having more power would be good. I mean, I think a big part of it would make the elections matter more. As I've gotten a little bit out of the business of the elections in this body, because it's just kind of like, okay, what's the point? But I do think, especially when it comes to like holding all LEAs accountable, there's some power there because the mayor certainly doesn't want to. And so it's only going to be elected bodies that may or may not want to hold all LEAs accountable to the same standards, which they are currently not.
And Mr. Morales, you mentioned the ability to close policy gaps. I wonder what are you thinking of when you talk about policy gaps? Are there like top three things that you're thinking of, or?
Well, I wasn't thinking particularly about any specific issue gap right now. I was more so thinking along the lines of this body's inability to either propose legislation on education as the education body, or being able to amend and revise any legislation or proposals brought to you by the Office of the State Superintendent for Education. It doesn't make sense to me that this body is so rudderless when it comes to the thing that it was elected to do, and so I think anything would be a step up from what we have now.
Thank you.
Representative Johnson Law.
Thank you all so much for your testimony. I really appreciate it. To Kathy, to Laura, to Nathan, again, thank you for all that you all are doing and for pushing all of us, right, to make democracy better. That's why we're here. How do we work together? How do we make it better? And ultimately, how do we make this better for children? And how do we do our jobs better and respond to our constituents? So I just want to say thank you. To Ms. Ballard, and to your son, Nate, who's also Nathan. So Nathan, Mr. Nathan, this is to you, my dear. Can you see me? I'm over here. I'm in pink. How you doing, baby? So look, my name's Miss LaJoy, and I'm a mama. And my daughter's 14, and she has an IEP, and she learns differently. And so sometimes it's hard for her to express herself. Sometimes she has anxiety, and there are a lot of things that are happening. So just to see you here with your mom, it's a blessing. And I want you to keep, speaking up for yourself. And even when people may call you different, that's okay. It's a beautiful thing to be different. So I want you to keep hanging with mama. She loves you. And keep speaking up for yourself. And the next stop, I think you should go to DC Council, because there are some days I think you might be smarter than half of them on there. I said it out loud. Proud of you. Truth. I yield the rest of my time. And Ms. Ballard, thank you. Oh, you can respond, Nathan, if you want to. You can take the rest of it. You're welcome, baby.
For letting me speak here.
Thank you for your kind words, and would value your thoughts on how to best go to DC Council, personally, and then also as a parent who wants to uplift my son's voice, but also protect my son on the journey.
We'll connect soon. I'll email you.
Yeah.
We have her information, right, you guys?
Thank you. I'm beckyball@gmail.com. So
Okay.
if you all have any tips about that balance between supporting my son and uplifting his voice, but protecting him on the journey as well. Because once things are public, people have opinions, and I'm really proud of you, Nathan.
Yeah, Ms. Ballard will connect. Thank you.
Representative Thompson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your testimony. I think the first time I testified before a body like this, it was actually the school board. I was 5. I was a student at Plummer, and so it is a very long journey. So Nathan, we might see you up here, and we're not going to say how many years, but it could happen. I want to focus on the reality DC is facing right now. Now, I know at 6 o'clock today, DCPS had a meeting. Clearly, I'm not in that meeting because I'm in this meeting. I'm curious if any of you were able to attend or have heard from people what was covered, because one of the things that I was expecting was some information about how our schools are approaching it in this moment. And so, Laura, Kathy, I don't know if you've heard anything with it being so immediate, but I'm curious to know.
I know you didn't ask me, but I can answer. So I was not in the meeting, obviously, because I'm here as well, but I am in a group chat where folks were giving updates from that meeting. The 2 updates I saw, one was that the chancellor and the school district finally committed to enforcing, or not enforcing, but sticking to the guidance issued last school year on sticking by the Office of Attorney General's guidance for educators and staff on what to do should ICE or other federal agents come into school. So that position has not changed, but to Laura's point from earlier, it's really shameful that they've just now coming around to say this, with days before the school year was to start. They also mentioned that at this time, DCPS does not anticipate SROs to be engaging or participating in sort of an immigration enforcement with law enforcement federally, nor do they think that at this time, because that's their favorite phrase, that the status of SROs or the schools will change in relation to MPD. So a whole lot of nothing really, just more so hey, we're sticking to our guidance from before. They also talked about safe passage, but that guidance hasn't really been any different than it has been before.
Okay, that's helpful, because as of, I was in a meeting this morning where I was told some of those things would be shared, which I thought was encouraging. I also anticipate that similar information will be shared around charter LEAs, but I wanted to get confirmation on what was shared so far so that we can think about and be supportive on the information that is available. Because I do think there is a hole, especially with our elected leaders, around what exists, what we should be communicating, and to whom. So thank you.
Representative Best.
First, Ms. Ballard, you're absolutely right. Grade level should definitely not be the ceiling. It should be the starting point. And it just, makes us just constantly think about the direction we're going. I didn't even think about SROs until.
CPS.
Yeah, yeah. So I think Safe Passage has definitely a different meaning or a different look to different groups. And like even if at my job right now, we were bringing a group of people to DC and some were undocumented, and we decided to cancel that trip because we didn't want to put them in jeopardy. And so I think about our students and our families who may not want to send their kids to school because their fear of it not being safe. And I know there's nothing that can be done right now this year, but I just think about what virtual options could be for those, because I'm worried that families aren't gonna want to send their kids to school, and then they're gonna miss out on a lot, and then that could also impact them, because then people will come to their homes, and it's just a really, really sad situation that we're in right now. But I know we have done it before, but I wonder what it looks like. I know there are charter schools that have virtual options, but it would be good to also have public options as well. Hopefully, the state of affairs that we're in isn't going to last very long, but in case it does, we should probably start to think about what that could look like. I'm also worried about our kids who are playing football, who might have to go through these curfew zones to get home, where the game's in late and you're traveling with your teammates, because we tell you to go with a group so that you'll be safe. But I think in certain places like Navy Yard, we're in scenarios where you can't be with groups, I believe it's 8 or 9 or more, after 8 p.m. And so Safe Passage, I think, is something that we have to just really look at. I know this wasn't a question, but it was just me thinking out loud based off of the things that you guys have been talking about and things I've been thinking about. So thank you for that.
I'll just say real quick, if you want to pursue the virtual option, you should probably talk to DCPS today, because knowing DCPS will drag their feet on this forever. So if you want this is a viable alternative option, you should probably start lobbying for that now.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Buckle down. Mm. Thank you.
Vice President Williams.
Yes, thank you all for your testimony, Ms. Ballard, and Nathan, thank you for speaking up today. I appreciate you both being here. I'm going to start with Ms. Fuchs. Ms. Fuchs, where do you see, right now, given everything that's kind of going on, and I know there's a long history between DCPS and the union, where do you see the best points of collaboration right now?
I mean, my hope would be that, we are working together to see how the policies that are implemented from the top are actually kind of playing out in our classrooms, and that they're just there to honestly listen to kind of where things tend to, start to differentiate, I guess, amongst the schools, and how that can lead to a breakdown in kind of what they're communicating is happening versus what is happening. And then how we can be partners in helping solve that by working together. And I think that can apply to situations like federal policies coming down the pipe, but like even we're trying to get them to tell us about the energy policy to remove small appliances from classrooms, and that is resulting in a whole bunch of hiccups that, you know, can really be disruptive to teachers' days. So it's just like, it can be big, but it can also be like just little stuff so that they think about what it actually means when they have something on paper that sounds great and I'm for it. But when we start to roll it out, you start to see all the potential problems that you might not have seen because you're just kind of downtown saying it sounds nice.
I appreciate that. Ms. Riley, thank you for being here tonight and for your testimony, particularly the end of it around understanding that our ability to be here and to advocate for the constituents of DC is important and not respective of, you know, one particular leader at OSSI or one particular person on the board, but just the system of what can create, as Mr. Lehman said, like a more democratic system, and to be able to do so effectively. I'm also curious in that vein, like, given the system, how do you encourage us as a board right now to message to our community, to students in particular, you know, how to handle this moment, you know, that's maybe different or similar to what we're also hearing from other education stakeholders?
I mean, I think kind of what I said before, that I think with adolescents, it is what can you do to empower them? What you've got the standards. What does it stay in the standards that you can empower people in the classrooms? Is this the answer to your? Is this what you asked? What can you all do right now in this situation? I think you can do that. I think, like all of us, you can be out in the street on the first day of school, and those, you know, there's lots of walking school buses and lots of messages like we need to be out. We need to be able to witness. And I think your presence and your accessibility and your listening to what you know, to what Laura said, you're listening to what's happening on the ground for parents and teachers and students and principals is really what we can do right now. And the other thing is we can be kind and constructive. I mean, it is such a moment of despair that I think we can't give into it. We can give into it privately, but we need one another. So I think creating community where you can is crucial. And even, so that's what I think. And see, I'm almost done, but I feel it's really hard. Like for me, running meetings, I don't want people to leave feeling a lot worse than when they came.
Thank you.
President Patterson.
Thank you. This was a really powerful panel. I'm in my second term, and the things that were said this night just really resonated with me from each of you, so thank you, first and foremost. As many know, I'm a parent. I have 2 DCPS children. They're both high schoolers now. My daughter's starting 9th grade, so she's now a high schooler, so I have 2 high schoolers. And it's very interesting, as Representative Thompson said, that we're having a meeting with DCPS on the same night that the State Board is meeting, and that's a little infuriating with me, because it's not taking into consideration, you know, that people want to also be included in what's happening at the State Board of Education. They shouldn't be made to choose between the two. So that's a little infuriating to me at this particular point as a parent. And I'll leave that there. Mr. Nathan, thank you. I appreciate you. I only have one word for you because you read so well. Did you submit your testimony? Because we would love to make sure that it's in our records. I mean, it's part of history. I just want to make sure that you did submit it for our records, okay? So thank you. We're good there? Okay.
Yeah, I submitted mine, and we actually worked on his over the past 24 hours. But I will make sure that I get it in if that's okay.
All right.
Thought closer to the time of speaking would be the right time to do it.
Yes, thank you so much. Ms. Riley, as always, first, thank you. Thank you for your dedication to this city as a whole, for all that you do for education, for raising the issues that need to be raised, even when they're unpopular. I appreciate you for always doing that, and with so much integrity and authenticity. I just truly appreciate that. I agree with you because some of us have all been here before the board was limited in its power in 2007. I think all of us, as we worked on more board authority, want to make sure that we get more board authority because, as was stated, we are the only elected body that speaks to education. Everybody else is appointed or something else. But we speak for the people that elect us each and every time, and we should be able to redress some of the things that come to us where we're hearing differently from those members that are presenting it to us. We should be able to do things to it to recalibrate it. So I just want to say in my last 30 seconds, from each of you guys, especially our members from the Washington Teachers Union, we agree with you on that aspect of making sure that we can really speak to the issues in a powerful way. If we're going to talk about democracy, and it is such a hot issue right now, this State Board of Education needs to be able to do that. Period, point blank. We need the authority to do so. So I appreciate your testimony and thank each one of you.
Thank you all again. That concludes this panel, and I'm going to call the next round of witnesses, so you all may exit.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Don Roy Ferdinand. Alphonse Prince. Dominique Moore. Devon Montgomery. Angela Gore Curry. Charles Boston. Grace Benson. Okay, perfect. We can start, yes, when you're ready. And you all let the mic, it's powerful, so you can, you can be a little bit further. Perfect, thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Don Roy Ferdinand. I'm a DCPS educator residing in Ward 5, and I teach in Ward 4, and I am here with Empower Ed. When I first arrived in Washington, D.C. to advance my own education, it did not take long for the city to start making a difference in my life. While studying, I worked part-time as an after-school teacher and found my professional home when I started teaching middle school social studies full-time. Being the type of person I am, I would not be able to look my students in the eye and encourage them academically without doing what I can as a human being to address the numerous issues that detract from their learning. Today, I'm here to discuss making our education system more democratic for everyone that is lucky enough to call DC home. The current structure of school governance does not allow for the State Board of Ed to make necessary changes to our schools. It does not even allow for this body to freely access information. Ultimately, the person who makes the final decision on school policy is the mayor. We can see how dangerous it is to cede power to the executive branch as opposed to dispersing the ability to make important decisions amongst the people most impacted. While I do not believe our mayor acts intentionally to undercut our schools, we would have a more innovative solutions if some power was shared with this body. Tonight, this body is submitting to Chairman Mendelson a bill aimed at doing just this. Unfortunately, I do not think that this goes far enough. I have to ask why a single member of the State Board should not be able to request data that can be used to improve the public good. Why should the State Board be forced to wait 90 days to 2 years before seeing a policy that they are only able to request? Our schools, students, and communities are facing real threats, and being able to respond to them quickly should absolutely include this democratically elected body. It is important to give the State Board the proper authority to be able to initiate policy. An empowered State Board of Education in Washington, D.C. would mean more focus and collaboration on policies for our schools. And when the schools are full of students at their best, it improves life for all of us, both now and in the future. Thank you for your time and consideration of my testimony.
Good evening. My name is Alphonse Prince. I'm an educator from Ward 4, but I'm also a lifelong DC resident from Ward 5. I joined Empower Ed last school year because I wanted to advocate for my students outside of the classroom the same way I advocate for them inside of the classroom. I currently teach algebra to 8th graders at multiple public charter schools across the city, and thus I get multiple views of how schools run and what issues are important to those communities. Today, I'm here to discuss the impending bill on governance and potential positive impacts on schools and students. This challenge is important to me because this bill should help cut down the red tape that schools and LEAs have to fight through to get initiatives started or stopped in certain cases. Due to the red tape, LEAs can sometimes be hampered from shifting policy, even if they have the data to support their reasoning. Without timely change, eventually students feel that disillusion, whether in whole group instruction or small group instruction. If this occurs in content such as math, then that just feels the bad feelings students already have for math and further complicates learning. We have to be sure that any bill that the School Board of Education is looking at doesn't replicate that problem. A time frame of 2 years to implement a policy means that the policy could already be outdated by implementation. That flip side is also important, and I've seen this firsthand. This year, my LEA is introducing a new Tier 3 math tool that will inform our small group instruction using data. When introduced, the reaction of many teachers was one of optimism, as many teachers were disillusioned with the previous tool. Imagine if the School Board of Education, with the power to amend or change policy, could bring that same optimism and change that their constituents clamor for. The bill that is being introduced could have a positive impact on communities if it allows the School Board of Education and LEAs to be flexible to the needs of their communities. Time will not be lost and teacher morale will not be affected. Working with the School Board of Education's teachers could implement policies that they have the data and then also the anecdotal tales to support that data. As I wrap up my testimony, I ask the School Board of Education to consider a plan that makes them and LEAs more flexible for their communities and gives students the support they need faster. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dominique Moore. I am a DC-based educator in Ward 8. I'm a native Washingtonian. I often tell people I'm just an uptown girl that fell in love with the South Side. I run a community-based organization in Ward 7 and 8 called Life Reign, and I am one of the newest members of the Empower Ed staff as the community organizer transitioning out of the classroom. With all of that being said, I have about 15 years of experience in servicing our youth, families, and communities. I come before you today in strong support in strengthening the board's legislative authority and understand that it is essential for transparency, accountability, and a public education system that truly serves all of our students. As an educator, I can tell you that these changes are not just procedural, they directly impact students' daily lives. Policy decisions about curriculum, accountability, frameworks, and resource allocation affect whether students have access to equitable learning opportunities, whether teachers feel supported, and whether families can trust the system. Restoring the board's legislative authority also restores something more important, public trust. Our communities deserve to know that there is a body accountable representing them that they elected that represent their voices and are empowered to act in their best interests. DC, as we know, is a city of remarkable talent, resilience, and great promise. But to fulfill that promise for DC, we must ensure that our governance structures are not only functional, but always just and representative. This resolution is necessary to take a step forward, and I urge the board to do whatever that they can. And I'm going to go off script now because I do understand that I am talking to a board that understands that they need more power and that you all are working towards that. And I stand here today as the community organizer on behalf of Empower Ed and my organization, Life Reign, to say that we are willing to do whatever it takes to get behind you all to make sure that we start to move in that direction. I understand that these testimonies often sound like we are preaching to the choir because I know that is something that you all in your professional and moral opinion would like. So I sit here with my public testimony to say that we would like to collaborate and work with you all to come up with ideas to be able to move this forward. As we all know, suppressing governance prevents progress, and I yield my time. Thank you.
Will you please check that if the light is on that microphone?
Yep.
Perfect, thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Devon Montgomery. I am the Dean of Students and Culture at Harmony DC Public Charter School in Ward 5 and an Empower Ed Fellow. I've been an elementary educator in DC for the past 15 years and have experienced firsthand the vacuum created in education when non-educators are in charge of educational decisions. Today, I am here to discuss what steps the board can take towards gaining agency and governance over educational decisions in the district in ways that have greater impact for a larger number of students and families. The DC State Board of Education Expanded Authority Amendment Act of 2025, as proposed by the State Board, is a step closer to expanding the influence of the board. However, I think that there are far more effective ways for the board to impact the District of Columbia in meaningful ways. The board should be a conduit between governing bodies and families, students, and educators. As such, it is critical that the board have the authority to hold the city leaders accountable to the educational needs of our city. In a perfect world, the DC board would have the authority to select the chancellor of DCPS and the state superintendent of education and have authority to hold them accountable to the needs of stakeholders. Approve and consult on the educational budget to ensure that schools are equitably funded, cultivate transparency and communication amongst educational agencies and organizations, allow for public feedback to be a critical part of the decision-making process, and utilize student data for transparency and accountability in the process of school improvement efforts. The State Board does an amazing job of providing a space for the community to advocate at the decision-making table, but its ability to turn this advocacy into policy gets muddied by the board's inability to hold more educational leaders accountable across the board. As the boots on the ground, the board is in an optimal position to bring the experiences of the community to the decision-making table. The board does an amazing job with community outreach and support with navigating educational agencies and organizations and should be in the driver's seat of the conversation when it comes to educational decision-making. Mayoral control and council oversight currently make bridging this gap more challenging. One way for the board to strengthen its impact would be to partner more fully with the Deputy Mayor of Education. This partnership would center around engagement and uplifting voices of female educators into that policy arena. Another option would be for the board to operate as an oversight education committee for the DC Council. In this capacity, board members would serve as the committee on education members with governance over education-related policy proposals to the council. Lastly, the board could find common ground with the mayor by gaining oversight over assessment, potentially feedback, and other advocacy avenues. The gap between advocating for the educational needs of the city and cutting red tape needs to disappear completely. The democratic process involves robust discourse amongst representatives of the people as a means to move society forward. As elected officials, the board should be granted a seat at the table that is more than in an advisory role. Thank you for your time and consideration of my testimony.
My name is Grace Benson. I am a DCPS parent, and before I start, just want to thank you all for being here and for being educators in our city. Today I'm here because the silence of DCPS about a child predator is putting more children at risk. A father in our elementary school community, Thomas Mahoney, was arrested in July for sexually abusing 3 children, 2 7-year-old girls and 1 8-year-old boy. The victims are kids at my son's school. I also know the accused's family. Our kids have had play dates and our families spend time together. This news hit really close to home. The Metropolitan Police issued a press release on July 23rd, 4 weeks ago, about the arrest. The press release misspelled Thomas's last name and used confusing language, like the suspect is more than 4 years older than both victims. It left parents scrambling for information. The press release mentioned 2 victims. Court documents reveal 3, and a Washington Post article suggested a possible 4th. In the 4 weeks since, and with school starting next Monday, our school has sent out no official communication. Not from DCPS, not from the school, not even from the parent-led HSA. In that vacuum, 2 harmful things have happened. Number 1, some families, especially those less connected to casual chatter, don't even know what has happened. Just this weekend, I spoke with a parent through Google Translate. They had no idea that the victims were from their kid's school. I had spoken to others who assumed the victims were teenagers. Parents like them deserve to know, so they can watch for warning signs if their children had any past contact with Thomas. He was an active volunteer at our school, took pictures of many kids at school events, chaperoned field trips, organized Pokemon walks for kids. Number 2, at the same time, other families have pieced together details through gossip, court documents, and news articles, down to the names of the victims. How can these children and families feel safe at school? How can any additional victims or witnesses feel safe about coming forward? This silence does not protect children. It leaves them exposed. One of the victims' parents told me that the school has not reached out to them. No communications or support have been offered, unless something has changed in the last 48 hours. I'm urging this board to hold DCPS accountable for clear and timely crisis communications and support protocols. When a predator has been in our community, families need facts, resources for support, and reminders to both adults and children. Simple things, like don't say the names of the victims, ever. I hope you will center the safety of children above the protection of an institution, one that has the instinct to shrug and say, you know, liabilities. If DCPS will not protect children with honest communication, then this board must require it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We will now proceed with our round of member questions, beginning with Representative Colson.
I'm still digesting that. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for your testimony. I don't have a question. I will just give a comment, and I can say pretty consistently during these public meetings, we hear about something that has occurred or not occurred that stems back to communication or the lack thereof. And I think sometimes we forget that we are in the business of serving people, and especially little people. So my comment just simply is that we have to do a better job. Even if we don't have all of the information or have the correct information, we can't keep silent about a lot of things, and especially this situation. I had not heard of that situation. My heart and everything goes out to the victims, to the families. And I agree with you. We need to do a better job with communication across the board with the things that are happening in our community right now, with the things that are happening specific to schools and students. Communication is key, and we all need to do a better job. I yield the rest of my time. No further questions.
Representative Goulet.
Could you, if you don't mind putting on record what school? Eaton. Well, let's talk. I represent Ward 3. I would love to talk to you after the meeting and send an email out right away, because that's alarming. Were the incidents we're talking about, did they happen on school campus or at any school functions, or did they happen off-site?
Of the ones that we know about happened in the perpetrator's home, and the children were very close to the family. The children are close to the children of the perpetrator.
Okay, I would love to follow up with you after the meeting, if you can stick around, and let's talk about a plan of action to make sure the school resolves this in a way that's appropriate. To the other panelists, I fully support taking a look at the governance issue, and I think it was Mr. Curry, I think you mentioned it. I think it was about accountability, is whether we could hold people accountable as a board with oversight. And I think I've come to a different place on this than I was 3 or 4 months ago, because I thought an issue that would have been easy to solve, one that was obvious and one that we could collaborate with the executive branch on, there was an easy solution to, but once they didn't want to row in the same direction as this board, they just blew us off. And we drafted legislation, we sent it to council, and what they did is they stonewalled us. They promised to do an evaluation process of the students to see whether they were ready for first grade. These are students that were on track to go to kindergarten. The students all failed the assessment tests, and then DCPS said, well, we don't care whether you failed or not, you're going to go to first grade anyway, whether you're ready or not. And it's really opened my eyes. We have a system right now where there's not accountability and no way to hold the chancellor accountable. If he doesn't want to do something, he just won't do it. So, I support the legislation we have right now, but I also support what Commissioner Morales said, which is that we need to maybe look at how we, and I think a lot of you reference this too, of how we increase this in a way that's more robust and really gets it done and that creates a best practice in our city for what this board should do with oversight. So what I would like to do is, I know we don't have time for everybody to talk about it today, is if we could come with those ideas, and maybe it would be with this bill, maybe it would be with a future bill, but what should this board do in the future to improve education, and what should it look like? And I'm open to any conversation on that, and I thank you for coming out today. I think this is an ongoing discussion that we can have about what an ideal state board would look like here in the city. So thank you all for speaking today, and we'll look to bring the bill back at the next meeting. Thank you.
Representative Henderson.
Hi, thank you all. The principal frustration for me in this role is that I'm elected to represent constituents, and my constituents bring issues to me, and often there's very little that I can do about them, at least directly. And so I also welcome any move to making the whole education system more democratically responsive. So I very much appreciate the offer to get behind moves in that direction. The legislation that we have talked about as a board is a modest step in that direction, but I think it's meaningful. Obviously, for any changes in governance to happen, it has to be approved by the council. So certainly welcome your cooperation in advocating to the council to making our whole education system more responsive. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Representative Johnson Law.
I don't even have words right now. Like, I don't have words. This is a failure on every level. For everybody here. And these babies about to go back to school in the middle of a federal crisis. And the simple things, we can't even get right. Ms. Grace, I'm gonna have to yield my time because I don't think my words are appropriate for the public record, because I'll connect with you after. Thank you. And thank you to the rest of you for your testimony.
Representative Thompson.
Good evening, everyone. Ms. Benson, thank you for taking the time to come and sharing and just entrusting us with the information, because I would imagine, given the experience so far, you have not felt served, heard. I could insert a bunch of words. I don't want to tell you how you feel, but I do appreciate you giving us the opportunity to be of assistance to you. To the panelists who came before us today to address the governance, what are we calling it at this point? Like, you know, we've been through so many iterations, right? I appreciate that we are now in a place where we can have this conversation. I think that I have been through many iterations of conversations about if we should have a conversation or not. And while at this point our entire just a determinants to self-govern and be able to have authority in over ourselves is in question, I think that's something we're going to have to stand together and address as a city. I would imagine that comes first. I would also imagine that as we take steps, we always want to take steps that move us closer to a more perfect democracy. And so I appreciate your testimony today. I appreciate that we have more time and more steps to take to grapple with this. I also just appreciate you all's, and I mean this in the most sincere way, at a time where civics and folks' understanding of government is clearly a challenge. You all's command of who can do what. At the end of the day, it is up to the council. The council is our legislative body. They make laws. We have had council members who have promised when they're running for mayor that they will address mayoral control when they can address it now because they are legislators and mayoral control of schools is a local law. It is one we've promised to revisit. And so I do believe we can take the steps to make this right. I'm really proud of the work that has been done to do the homework because we're education people, so we do our homework. I think we have really solid recommendations, and I look forward to continuing to engage on this topic until, we see it fully realized. So thank you.
Representative Best.
Thank you all for coming out. One, thank you for sharing that. And Representative Goulet, I'll support whatever it is that we're going to do with that. I would like to talk to you all, the three, after. I have grown very frustrated with what we have the ability to control, but I'm also going through an internal struggle with something that I'd love to share with you all outside. And I think one of the things with being in these positions right now, you see a lot of the if-then statements. So if we do this, then what happens? Does that then trigger this? If passed, does that trigger that? And so I would love to just talk to you guys about that after the meeting if you're still around. All right, thanks. That's all.
Representative Chang.
Ms. Grice, I'm curious to hear how the parents have learned more about how you've already brought it up to the school and what the response has been and who else you've escalated it to.
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Who else have you escalated the issue to?
The principal,
Mm-hmm.
the president of the HSA, which is our PTO.
And what has been the response from the principal? I know you touched on it a bit, but.
So I organized a few different parents to co-sign a letter that asked the school for communications, for support resources, and for collaboration with the HSA. And the principal responded and said he has reached out to the crisis response team, and here are some resources. So he sent some links about sexual abuse prevention, about body safety, some really generic information, and that's it. And when I have spoken to the president of the HSA, what she said was essentially they're looking to the school. The school is very worried about legal liabilities because of due process. And I gave her tons of ideas about how we can provide resources to our parent community. I co-organized a Zoom call with an outside social worker to talk to fifth grade parents about how to talk to children about the situation so that they don't go to school and gossip to each other. We did this 2 weeks ago. I told the principal that we organized this. I told the HSA president that we organized this. We've self-organized a little bit, but the school has not responded in any meaningful way.
And what would the ideal outcome be if you could wave a magic wand now?
I think some level of minimal communication so that all parents are aware that this took place, so that they can talk to their children and say, did you have questionable interactions with Thomas Mahoney? And if so, tell us.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's number one, is there could be more victims out there. Number two is the safety of the victims. So at this point, many, at least parents, know the names of the children because in the court documents, you can see their initials, and two of the victims have a last name initial that's quite rare. So And they also all lived in the same building. So it's pretty easy to figure out who the kids are. So enough people know who the kids and the parents are. In fact, 2 weeks ago, one of the parents posted on Facebook and said, please stop talking to me. Please stop talking to each other. Please stop gossiping. It's children's lives and safety at risk here.
Thank you.
Vice President Williams.
Ms. Benson, yeah, thank you for coming here tonight. Representative Goulet, I appreciate you quickly following up on this and hopefully getting a better resolution. It's very clear to me that you're here solely for the safety of students and for families, and that there are necessary steps that have not been taken that need to be taken. So I appreciate your perspective, your courage, and your advocacy tonight. To our other panelists, your testimony makes me think of when I was in your shoes as an Empower Fellow, and how long this fight to expand State Board Authority has been, even before this iteration of the board. You know, we're coming up on a new set of graduation requirements, and I don't want all of our advocacy and all the things that we know will make our schools be better be all for naught. My colleague, Representative Henderson, reminded me of when OSSI had previously sent us an ultimatum slide to essentially say, oh, here's the report card. You've told us all these extra things. We've gathered, you know, hours and hours and hundreds of testimonies. Take it or leave it. Knowing full well that we were elected here by 700,000 people to do the job of advocating for what we know is best. I appreciate your spirit of collaboration. I think we all need to have conversations with council members to be able to, quote unquote, walk and chew gum at the same time. I mean, I know this is not their top issue. I know that a hearing is not scheduled. At the same time, I think what this authoritarian attack does to our city is paralyzes us. It makes us not be able to do the business that we need to be able to do to create the school system that our students deserve. So I would appreciate your communication with council members. I would appreciate your continued advocacy. And please know that you have an ally in this effort, and I would like to strategically get this across the finish line. So thank you for being here tonight.
President Patterson.
Thank you. Like Representative Johnson-Law, Ms. Benson, I don't have a lot of words for the situation that you're facing. I have a middle school, I had a middle school daughter. She's now going to high school, and they had a similar situation at their school that she attended. What I will say is that I look forward to helping Representative Goulet as we address this issue. I truly understand all the ramifications that you have explained tonight, so I'm not going to go any more into them and everything like that, because we really have to handle this and in a delicate way, because at the end of the day, there are babies that are involved. So I'll leave that there. For the other members who came here talking about a board authority, the Public Education Reform Amendment Act of 2007, I'm going to say that date again, 2007. In the 30-something years that I've dealt with policy, I've never seen a perfect policy. And for us not to say we're going to look at something that was enacted in 2007 is basically criminal. To say we're not going to evaluate its effectiveness, to see where it's good, to say where it's bad, and that we will literally punish folks who do want to look at it, because I've had those type of conversations with folks. They do not want you to look at marital control in any means whatsoever, okay? What I will say is that we have members up here who have worked very diligently to add the needed things for us to be able to do our jobs. And we are going to move this forward at the appropriate time. Earlier today in our agenda, we tabled it, and we did not untable it tonight. But what I can tell you because of all that's going on right now, that's why we did not table it. We are going to look at this. There are some amendments that are being discussed, and this will come before us, and with your support, especially you, young lady, who said you're ready to do everything, we're going to get this adjusted, okay? This board deserves more authority. It needs to be able to respond, as our members have set up here, to our constituents who elect us, who actually think we can do things for them when they come to us, okay? So we're going to do this. We're going to do it in the proper way. We're going to do it at the proper time, which I believe is coming up in the next month or so. Again, I want to thank everybody, especially my peers up here, who have worked over reports, government reports, over task forces and everything to really evaluate this. We're going to take in what you have told us tonight. We're going to incorporate some of those things. We're going to have more discussion about it, but we're going to get this done. Again, I want to thank the panel and everyone. Ms. Benson, panelists, thank you for your time tonight. Really appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes, that concludes this panel. So thank you all so much again for your testimony, and you may leave.
Okay. We do not have any administrative items this evening, so we will now move to new business. Members, are there any announcements or comments you would like to make before we adjourn? Representative William?
Yeah, I'll just remind members that we have an email from Representative Thompson. Thank you for your quick action on that, Representative Thompson. Most people have responded. If you have not, please respond by close of business tomorrow so that we can figure out our next steps.
Sorry, Representative Johnson-Law.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I want to speak for the board, but from all of us and to the public, you're going to school on Monday, and we know it's in the middle of a crisis, and we know that we want to give you joy because that's what children deserve. But for myself, be safe. To our youth, be safe, y'all. We really need you guys to be safe. We need y'all to put your listening ears on. And I don't know why people are not publicly having this conversation and saying this out loud. This is not the time to be playing reindeer games with folks. Go to school, get to where you need to go, let your mama and your grandpa and your daddy know where you are. Seriously. We want this to be a time of joy, but this is the reality of where we are. So we want to give you joy, right? But we need to be real. And that's going to be on all of us. And not just sitting out here giving somebody a statement. No, like what are real solutions and how are we working with our schools? The schools can't do it by themselves. The teachers can't do it by themselves. The parents can't do it by themselves. We are really going to have to show up in a very unique way for our children. This is about children. This ain't about systems, it's about children. So to the public and everybody, but the next time you see somebody, tell them, this is about children. And we really, really need to wrap our arms around them because they need our help. Thank you, Mr. President. And happy first day of school, everybody.
Are there other comments? I have one brief one. We have 2 LEAs that have started school. 2 of our bigger charter networks have started school. One started last week, another one started this week. Children are in schools. Both of these LEAs have literally about 13,000 kids, ranging in age from pre-K 3 to 12th grade in their LEAs. Our kids are in the system. And when I say the system, I mean moving back and forth on Metro Transit or doing certain things. We also understand the environment in which we're in. As earlier stated by Representative Best and his concerns about kids being in certain groups, just doing what they're supposed to do as students, traversing the city, getting back and forth, we have concerns about their safety, about them being profiled, what that means for them. Earlier today, I made a request basically to see as an entity, can we get the administration to issue IDs, a real ID to those who are age appropriate. I believe that starts at 15. We will continue to look and see how we're going to work that out. I think it is incumbent on us to be able to make sure that our children are safe, and if they are approached, that they are able to produce an ID that allows them to keep moving and not be hindered. I don't think a school ID handles that problem. So I'll be working on that to make sure that our children can move and traverse the city, that they can actually have a good experience, that they can go to games, come home, go to extracurricular activities, the things that they're interested in that brings them joy, without fearing that they have to get home before a certain time that will not allow them to make it home safely, or they will be harassed. So I just wanted to state that issue, that is something that I'm going to continue to work on, along with Representative Johnson Law and any other members up here that want to work with it, that we would like that to happen. So again, I appreciate everyone who attended this evening. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Thompson?
I have an announcement. I'm going to err on the side of joy. So first, thanks to everyone who supported the Ward 7 backpack giveaway this Saturday. If you are still in need of back-to-school things, because Lord knows it's a more expensive year than ever, there is another back-to-school event happening tomorrow, tomorrow being Thursday. So Friends of Capitol View Library has their back-to-school community day. That'll be from 3 to 7 p.m. outside of the Capitol View Library. The address is 5001 Central Avenue Southeast. More backpacks, more fun, more school supplies, more all the things. And so if you know folks who are in need, especially Ward 7 folks, but we love everybody, they are welcome to stop there. No advance registration required.
And with that, I appreciate that, Representative Thompson, of ending us on a joyful note in these difficult times. We all know we need as much joy as we possibly can get. With no further business before the State Board, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Johnson Law.
Second.
Seconded by Vice President Williams. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? We are now adjourned.